What position should the Saints target in the draft? We are here at DaBoot Tragedies, so a lot of people in my comment section has told me to check this channel out. Thus, I am checking the channel out. Thank you very much always for commenting and kind of giving me videos to react to or topics or whatnot. So if there's a video, a channel, a topic you want me to cover, get on down there in the comments and get involved. Now, we've talked about the Saints draft a little bit. You know, we've highlighted the philosophy between best player available or do you target players. We talked about Brock Bowers. We talked about the quarterback situation. So I'm sure we will revisit all of those topics in this, but let's get right into the video.
All right, we're going to jump into some draft talk. I know everybody's been excited about some draft stuff, man. We're going to go through position by position. We're only kind of talking about the first round pick today. We're not going to get too specific on these players. I've watched some of them, not all of them. Hey, I'll let you know right now. Whoever's, commented the most in the comments is the guys I'll review some film on. And we'll just start with the defensive back position. We'll kind of go through, like I said, we want to do.
I love film review. Okay. Let me just say that right now. Okay. First time I've watched this channel. I love when people take it to the film room. As you all know, I love the all 22, love the film room, love the deep analytics, love all that. I hate the idea of just like, yeah, we should take Michael Penix because he was sweet at Washington. Okay, well, we can't get his stats from Washington. We can't get the competition Washington played into the NFL. We need to know more of what he does as an individual. So anytime you're looking at draft prep and channels talking about the draft, if you're watching a channel and they're just saying, hey, we should take him because he was cool at blank school, that's not going to do it. So shout out to this guy for getting into the film room.
Doing first rounders for the most part. And I'm using NFL draft, but I don't really care about these rankings because I don't care about the rankings, but it'll give you a list of the top guys. I've got Cooper DeJean from Iowa, really good corner. Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinnon.
Okay, all right, so we're going to talk about corner. Okay, so cornerback, the Saints are in a unique situation. I would say it's a good situation where we kind of need everything. We kind of need everything. And when you think about where the Saints are from a roster standpoint, they do seem kind of stagnant. And I think they seem stagnant because we have kept the same players around on big contracts, and we've just rolled them out year after year after year. Our impact players, our new impact players, they just don't exist. Even the guys who are pseudo new impact players, the Rashid Shaheeds of the world, their role is relatively small. You look at some other teams, and you look at, and I know this is a little different because they're like high draft picks, but you look at like the Lions. You can easily tell over the last 3-4 years who the new impact players are for the Lions. The Rams this year, new impact players. Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. What would have happened if they would just rolled out, Cooper Kupp and the same wide receivers and the same, retread running backs? Like, it is very important to fill your roster with new impact players. The Saints have failed at doing that. I think the Saints have had a strategy of, we have our main core, we have them on big contracts, so let's get projects and let's get supplemental players. And when you fill your roster with projects and supplemental players, after a couple years, you get what we have now, where we've got Trevor Penning, and we've had the laundry list of Peyton Turner and Marcus Davenport and whoever. It's just, it isn't impactful enough. We need to fill the roster with impactful players. Whatever that position is, it is what it is. That's the philosophy I hold going into this draft is, whoever the best player is, you weigh how much you need that position, and then you take them. You weigh the impact, you weigh what they're going to bring to the table, bring them. Like if there's a left tackle and Brock Bowers is going to be more impactful than that left tackle. You can go find the left tackle in free agency. You can't find Brock Bowers in free agency. There's a lot of that too, where the impact of the player we draft, can we get that somewhere else? Because we can probably fill other positions somewhere else, but we might not be able to find a Kool-Aid McKinstry in free agency.
McKinstry and Terrion Arnold, those are probably the top guys coming out in the draft. At DB, the Saints won't take a corner in the first round. Obviously, it's been that, Marshawn Lattimore talk. If he gets traded, maybe they consider it, but with Alontae Taylor, the way Isaac Yiadom played this year, and obviously Paulson Adebo, I don't think cornerback's a realistic, position that we'll take in the first round. So
I'm not a fan of taking DBs high in the draft. I think it's too back in the day, a lockdown corner, a true play man lockup cornerback was a big deal because the offenses were a little bit more simplistic. Nowadays, a lot of the times you rarely see a lockdown corner play that style anymore of just, I'm going to be on the number one, I'm going to do this, we're playing man, whatever. There's complex schemes. The offense and defense have got more complex. So along with the offensive line, I've said that I think DB is probably the position with the most turnover, where a guy can be the best defensive back in the NFL. No doubt about it. Number one. Absolutely. He could be defensive player of the year. And then 2 years later, he could be traded for a 5th round pick. Year after, he could just be getting burned left and right. Very volatile position. I think the return on investment, pretty low. Now, there are some unique situations that have occurred where you have a transformational, generational talent, but I would put DB, if there was one position, if there's 2 positions I think you can find later in the draft, DB is definitely one. I was going to say O-line is probably another one. I was thinking linebacker might be one too, but DB I think might be the number one position that you can just roll people in. You can find them free agents. You can just plug and play. So I would not waste a 1st round pick on a DB.
So I won't cover the corners too much just because, like I said, I don't think it's realistic for the Saints to take a corner in the 1st round. Crazier things have happened, but that's just not realistic in my opinion. Next, we can move over to the linebacker position.
Okay.
Move over to the linebackers.
Okay, a couple interesting players here. Dallas Turner. Dallas Turner is a guy where he's a linebacker, but he's going to play that edge rusher position a lot. He's going to be rushing the quarterback, and that's what we need. You know, I like everything about Dallas Turner. He would be linebacker off the board, linebacker number one. Come get him. If he's there, that would be sweet, for sure. Size, athleticism, all that stuff in the summary here. Going around that 12 to 15, so he's in the zone of where we could get him. So, and he fills a need for us. You know, we cannot get to the quarterback. We cannot pressure the quarterback. It's been a problem all year long. So he would be a fantastic pick.
Dallas Turner, more linebacker, edge guy. Chris Braswell from Alabama, Edgerrin Cooper, Jeremiah Trotter. Those are some of the top guys. Once again, I think linebacker, you got Pete Warner, you got Demario Davis. Now, if it's the edge guy, that's a little different.
Yeah,
Dallas Turner,
we do not
I
have
think he'll be great for the Saints.
Yeah, agreed.
He doesn't fit their prototypical mold, but prototypical mold hasn't been working. Let's just
prototypical mold, get it out of here. I don't want nothing to do with the prototypical mold.
be honest. Peyton Turner hasn't worked.
Nope.
Marcus Davenport hasn't worked.
Nope.
So the prototypical mold that the Saints usually get in the edge position just hasn't been working. You have Zach Bond, who played this year, was not the prototypical mold for the Saints, not the big guy, 6'4", 270, 280 type guy. And he was one of our best edge rushers this year, him and Carl Granderson.
Towards
So
the end of the year,
maybe they go outside the box this year. I highly doubt it because everyone's still in place with Mickey Loomis.
Let me tell you this. Peyton Wilson down there from North Carolina State, dog. Watched a lot of NC State over the last couple of years, just how it played out. Peyton Wilson's an animal.
Dennis Allen, so I highly doubt they go outside the box with the mold. But I do really, really like Dallas Turner off the edge. Now, we'll just go to straight edge guys and not stand-up linebackers. You got lots.
All right, so this is an area I'd look heavily. If we're looking for, because like I said, you have to take, who's the best player at the slot we're drafting, but then you also have to weight how much you need that player. If whoever the top running back is, if they drop, it's like, we don't really need running back. So if there's someone else that, similar, you go with someone else, so there is a blend. It's not just strictly best available, every single year. You do kind of weight what the roster looks like. We need an edge rusher probably more than anything else. Like, we desperately need someone to get to the quarterback. In today's NFL, you have to be able to pressure the quarterback. If you let these quarterbacks sit back there, there isn't a secondary good enough with the way the rules are, the way defenses get penalized, the way offenses have an advantage. They will tear you up. So you have to be able to get to the quarterback. We can't, not only can we not do that, we're not doing it at like a laughable level. Jared Verse is a guy who I like a lot. Big, physical, strong, athletic, all of that. He stud. I mean, I like him a lot. He was dominant at Florida State. I would be looking at him. I'd rather him than, like, they have Latu at one. I would go Verse and Turner out of this whole group here. One of those two would be unbelievable if we could land one of those two at 14.
Latu. I'm sure it's going to be a fan favorite out the gate. Latu's going to be one of the fan favorites. He looks really good. Has some injury concerns. 6'4", 260, so a little bigger than Dallas Turner.
A little slower.
Really, really good. Really, really good player. Then you have Dallas Turner, probably another guy that's going to be a fan favorite. Then you have Jared Verse, another guy that's going to be a fan favorite. Now, obviously, this position is a position of need. This position, if the Saints draft in the first round, would be a good choice.
Fantastic.
At position-wise. I'm not sure on the player just yet, but as an edge rusher, as a defensive end, we need one of those.
But this is a good example. Okay, this is a perfect example right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You got Latu, Turner, Verse, and Chop Robinson. Chop Robinson's average overall rank is 24.1. He is markedly worse than the other ones, just from this evaluation. You know, we haven't done our full evaluations and all that. But let's say you have him like this. And let's say Latu, Turner, and Verse go. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself into like, well, we need an edge rusher so bad. Let's reach on Chop. Let's take Chop. That's a great example of we do need an edge rusher. But now we're getting to where he isn't the best player available by 10 plus players. So now let's go find the best player available. So that's something that we have done in the past where we would look at this list. I know y'all can't see all the players, but we would look at this list. Latu, Turner, Verse, and Robinson would be going, and we'd be sitting there at 14, and we'd probably take Braylon Trice. Because, well, we need one. Whatever. He's there. Boom. And all of a sudden, we end up with a non-impactful graded player at 14th overall. So hopefully, we don't have a similar situation like that.
Pass rush, pathetic. Piss poor.
Absolutely
Piss poor
garbage.
this year.
Hellacious.
And it's been for the last couple of years. Cam Jordan, we know it's over for him. I'm not going to say it's like over because he's old. So, I mean, actually, I'm going to say it's over for Cam Jordan. Let's just be honest.
Cam was hurt too. Hurt a lot this year. I think Cam's locker room leadership is important. I think Cam does have a lot he can still give to the team. I think he's fine to have on a rotational kind of player, certain packages, whatever. But for him to expect him to go out there on the edge and give you 10 plus sacks like Cam Jordan did a couple years ago, that is over. There is a place for Cam. It's not your get the quarterback, every play, every down, 3rd and 7. He's got to get to the quarterback. He's not that guy. He is not that guy. Let's find the next guy.
There's no need to sugarcoat, no need to lie. Hey, one of the greatest players in franchise history, but it's over.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Everything must come to an end. He can come in, help one of these guys, learn a position, get better, only play 30, 40% of the snaps towards the end of the year. He's only playing 50% of the snaps. He's getting older. It happens.
Exactly what I'm saying, yeah.
It happens. It's about time for him to retire. We need a guy to replace Cam Jordan. Thank you for everything you've done. Thanks since 2011. Hey, it's been a good run, but it's over with. So those top 3 guys, if we had any one of those top 3 guys, I'll be happy. You got Braylon Trice from Washington. You got Chop Robinson and a couple more guys.
Get them out of
going
there.
down that list. And you're just looking at the weights and stuff like that. Latu kind of fits the mold. Verse will probably have to gain some weight to fit the mold. Trice fits the mold. Of a prototypical Dennis Allen, the Saints, the guys they've been drafting at the edge. They're usually about 6'4", usually about 270. Basically, Trice. 6'4", 274. The Davenport, the Peyton Turner, the Cam Jordan mold. That's just what they like. Now, I'm not saying we should pick any of these players, but that's just the mold that the Saints like rolling with. And you can say it's been successful. You can say it's been unsuccessful.
It
in
has
my
not
opinion,
been
as of late.
successful.
Not even in my opinion. It's just a fact. It hasn't been successful.
Yeah.
So maybe they change it up. We'll see. But defensive end is definitely, they have to go after it. They just have to go as defensive end. And I think a first-round pick as defensive end would be great. Now, we can go to the inside guys. I think this is the inside guy. It's just going to defensive line as a whole, actually. We've already...
Defensive line has been problematic because we can't stop the run. So, we tried to bring players in to try and, address that. Hasn't worked out. We cannot stop the run at all. So, another way I kind of look at the draft is think about the ceiling. Like, think about the best possible situation. And then think about how much that would benefit the team. So, whoever you think the best edge rusher is, let's just say it's TJ Watt. And then whoever you think the best interior defensive lineman is, let's just say it's Aaron Donald. And then whoever you think the best cornerback is, Sauce Gardner. So I'm just making up names. Best tight end, Travis Kelce. And then you think, okay, if I could have one of those players, who would I want them to have? Like, think big time ceiling, big time. Like, you really nailed it. You really hit on a pick. And what would you want to see the Saints do? That's how I kind of look at this. And so if I'm looking between a dominant interior lineman or a dominant pass rusher, I'd probably look towards the dominant pass rusher. Interior defensive line, you're looking at stop the run pretty much, unless you get a really unique player like Aaron Donald, who it's hard to get sacks from the inside. So you say, who's going to plug up the hole, stop the run? I think you could get that in free agency. I think you could find that somewhere else. Just a run, just someone to disrupt the running game, plug a hole, pause. I think you could find that somewhere else. So I would not be looking at that at 14. And second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round, seventh round, eighth round, ninth round, Lulz. Yeah, maybe, but not the first round.
Talked about some of these guys. Jazon Newton, really, really like this guy. I think he may be one of the best defensive linemen, if not the best defensive lineman in the draft. Like, he really may be the best defensive lineman in the draft. More for defensive tackle, 6'2", 295. Will we do that? I mean, we just took Brian Bresee first round. We signed Nathan Shepard. We signed Kalen Saunders. Nathan Shepard didn't really show me a lot. Kalen Saunders was a good player for us. But if they draft another defensive tackle in the first round, it'll be interesting, man. You really don't want to spend 2 first-round picks back-to-back year on defensive tackles.
Unless they are really, really good. Unless you hit on both. Because then, let's just pretend they're both Pro Bowlers. Let's just pretend they're both absolute superstars. Then you're sitting there like, man, we got the best interior defensive line in the NFL. Like, all of a sudden, boom. Like, remember the Buccaneers were really good when Vita Vea was dominant in the interior? You just could not run on them. When they had all the combination of their defensive linemen, we saw Ndamukong Suh in there, whoever else. When you have, I'm okay with taking back-to-back positions if you hit both, and it means you have totally solidified that position for the next 5, 6, 7 years. Just like edge rusher. If you told me we could take the next TJ Watt and have the next Max Crosby on the other side, and we've got an insane pass rush, and that becomes the identity of our defense, go for it. Sure, fine. I'm all for that. If you certain positions like that, if you can just absolutely lock it up, absolutely own that position, make that your identity, I'm cool with it. So I wouldn't put any. I know we have brought people in and drafted people like he was talking about for the interior, but I wouldn't let that stop me if I thought Newton was that good, if I thought he was a legit impact game changer, going to change the identity of our interior defensive line, I'd take him.
But if they did, we still struggle to stop the run. Defensive line still didn't get enough pass rush. We need to shore up that defensive line. So if they did it, I wouldn't be upset. I'm not going to just come on and be like, oh, that's a terrible pick. It's just kind of weird to take 2 defensive tackles or the team that had to make the playoffs back-to-back years in the first round. But I really, really do like Newton. He's probably my favorite defensive lineman so far. You also got Brian Murphy II. Haven't talked about him. I think he's going to be a really, really good player. He's shooting up draft boards right now. So defensive tackle would be iffy for me, but if they did it, I'm not going to say I'll be super, super mad at it.
But Murphy, like, looking at him, his average rank, you look at everything, it looks like he could be a second, he could be a later pick kind of guy. So good example of how you figure, like, okay, if we pass on Newton, can we come back and make something happen to make sure we get Murphy? That seems like it could be a good plan.
It depends on the guy. If we get Newton, I wouldn't be mad at it. I'll tell you that right now. I've watched a little bit of them. I didn't super dive into any of these guys, man. It's still February. I know the draft is going to come up real, real quick, but I haven't really dove into it that much yet. But hey, if he's number 1 in the comments, I'll probably do like the top 3 guys and we'll go from there. Offensive line. Now, if we took anybody on the offensive line, I wouldn't be mad. Let's just get that out, put that out there right now. Offensive line has been sketched, and that's being nice. I mean, Trevor Penning, who the hell knows what's going to go on with him?
I know what's going to go on with him. He'll be selling car insurance in about 2 years. I do not want to take an offensive lineman. You have to hit. Here, let's do an exercise. All right, don't cheat. Guys, listen to me. Do not cheat. Okay? Do not. This is all. I trust you. You trust me. We're going to do a fun little exercise. All right? The Super Bowl. I'm filming this on a Thursday. The Super Bowl's in a couple days. Name any of the guards for Kansas City or San Francisco. Left guard, right guard. Kansas City or San Francisco. Name their guards. And if you can name them, how good do you think they are? Like, let's just say If you can name one of the guards, where do they rank in the NFL? Are they the 5th best guard? Are they the 9th best guard? Are they the 10th best guard? You probably don't even know. I certainly don't know. And I watch every single football game that's throughout the entire season. No clue. I could probably tell you top 10 wide receivers, top 10 running backs, top 10 quarterbacks, and be pretty damn close to all those lists, all those rankings. Linemen? No idea. No clue. I'll tell you why. 3 things when you're a lineman. You're either Hall of Famer, All-Pro, absolute wall. You're either bang average or you're out the league. That's it. That's how the offensive line is. That's it. Quarterbacks, a little different, right? Quarterbacks, you can be a Hall of Famer. You can be really good. You can be average. You can be above average. You can be below average. You can be kind of bad, bridge quarterback, whatever. You can be experienced, or you can be out the league. You have to absolutely nail, and I mean on a Hall of Fame level, your offensive line pick, or it's a wasted pick. So my philosophy with the offensive line is same with a bullpen in baseball. Just whoever's doing the job, roll them in. When they stop doing the job, roll them out and roll the next person in. I would just be turnstiling it, just kind of moving and shaking whoever. But I'm certainly not going to be drafting closers, hoping I'm going to hit the next Mariano Rivera. Way too hard to do. So instead, I'll just play the hot hand, go find whoever I can plug in, hope they do a job. If they don't, boom, see you later. Give me somebody who can. That's how I look at the offensive line. Think about all the great offensive linemen that have come out and have come to the draft. Some have had decent careers, but who the hell knows? Now let's go ahead and see the answer to the question. All right, here you go. So for Kansas City, the answers are left guard Joe Thuney and right guard Trey Smith. Did anybody in the comments get Trey Smith or Joe Thuney? We go to the 49ers. Their left guard, Aaron Banks, and their right guard is John Feliciano. Did anybody have those? Did anybody have those correct? What about Jake Brendel, their center? Did anybody have Jake Brendel? What about Colton McKivitz, their right tackle? What about Jawan Taylor for the Chiefs? What about Creed Humphrey, their center? Let's go to the PFF grades for guards, right? Where are they? Let's see. Now, obviously, we can't see the grade and all that, but I would assume this is in descending order. Trey Smith is down here. I see Trey Smith. He's probably, I don't know, what is this, mid-20s? Who else we got? Aaron Banks. There goes Aaron Banks, a little bit better than Cesar Ruiz. And then, yeah, I mean, we're looking, so it's 50, this is 50 people on this page. So you see what I'm saying? Where, I mean, look at the guards, right? Atlanta has two of the top 5 guards. Chris Lindstrom and Matthew Bergeron. How'd that work out for them? I'm telling y'all. Like, it's something that no one wants to talk about. It's something that no one really wants to admit, but it's very difficult to grade how good these players are. And it's very difficult to see who really is good, who really is dominant, and how much that is impactful to that team. Just like the 2 cats we just saw for Atlanta. Top 5 at their position. Now imagine if that is defensive end. Imagine if Atlanta had the number 1 and the number 5 defensive ends in the NFL. So you got to ask yourself, I've really been driving this point home for the last couple of weeks, and I want to quit seeing offensive line in the comments. Because every time I watch a Saints draft video and I see taken offensive linemen, I start to feel the GERD. I start to feel the battle, the wounds of all the dome dogs bubbling up in my chest. You can find guys as good as who Kansas City and San Francisco have at guard. Guards that will take you to the Super Bowl. You can find those guards in free agency. You can find those guards in the 3rd round, 4th round, whatever else. You do not need to take a first-round guard or a first-round lineman just because they're there and just because you think you need to fix the offensive line. What about Atlanta if you had the 1st and the 5th ranked player at blank position? Imagine if you had the number 1 and the number 5 ranked wide receivers. How impactful that would be for your team. It'd be crazy. It'd be crazy. You can do that with virtually any position except offensive line. That's the one where it's like, not really that impactful. Something to think about, guys. I'm not saying don't ever draft a lineman, but I'm just saying if it's between a lineman and a bunch of other picks, or if you have a high draft pick, it's not worth it.
Is he a part of the future? Is he part of the present? Is he a part of anything with the Saints? We don't know. We're going to have some new guys in there, maybe a change of scenery, new faces, not Doug Marrone anymore. Maybe that'll help Trevor Penning out. Cedric Ruiz had a surprise year, not this past season, but the year before that. Maybe Trevor Penning makes that leap. Maybe he makes that leap, but this offensive line class is really, really good. It's really, really good. If we take an offensive lineman, you will hear no complaints from me. Or maybe, because obviously we haven't been able to draft offensive lineman well as of late. So maybe you won't hear complaints from me. Maybe you will, but I won't complain about the pick. The pick won't be, a problem. It's probably the person that's going to be a problem if it's a problem. But you got Joe Alt, who's kind of the number one prospect on everybody's list. I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce the Penn State guy's name. We can all read. I can't, obviously. Then you got the Oregon State. All these names.
Watched a lot of Florida State. Oregon State. Watched a lot of them this year. I think he's a stud. He's an absolute stud. He's one of those guys where he's got everything you possibly want. I use this comparison all the time. Look at the Bengals when they had Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase. That was the choice. Joe Burrow had just been hurt. Joe Burrow was their franchise quarterback. Joe Burrow was on an ascent to be an MVP type player. Everything. Almost just choked my own tongue right there. Almost just drowned right there live, but I persevered. Didn't even take a break. Didn't even pause. Didn't even do any of that stuff. Just silently fought the fight, survived. Everything told the Bengals, take an offensive lineman, protect Joe Burrow, right? Don't we hear that all the time? Protect your most valuable asset, protect your quarterback, keep your quarterback upright, whatever. They said, you know what? Let's give him Jamar Chase. And what do you think looking back? And Penei Sewell's been a hell of a player. Plays for the Lions. The Lions took him. Hell of a player. No doubt. You could argue that Penei Sewell is better at his position than Jamar Chase is at wide receiver. You could argue that. If nothing else, they're probably about the same as far as like how good they are at their position. But what position impacts a game more? What position is harder to find? How easy is it to find a Jamar Chase? Not easy. Okay. So you think about that. Use that example. Offensive line, 14th overall. Pass.
Attempt to pronounce them. We see them. You got Latham from Alabama, Mims from Georgia, Morgan from Arizona. These guys, it's a lot of good guys. All of these guys I've kind of watched. They're mostly offensive tackles. Take one late in the
draft. Take them late.
Obviously, with Ramczyk, future's looking dim. I don't know what's going on with their knee. Maybe we draft the offensive tackle. Maybe we draft the offensive guard. You had Ruiz out there. You got McCoy out there. Those two guys are obviously going to be there. If Ramczyk's healthy, he's going to be there. So you have your center, your right guard, and your right tackle. If all are healthy, that's what you have. Now, that left side of the line is where it gets weird, where it gets tricky. You had Pete playing left tackle this year, who played surprisingly well.
Played well, yeah.
Can't get mad at Pete for what he did this year.
Yeah.
Throwing out there left tackle, and I think he played well out there.
Well.
So congrats for him. But then after that, what's going on out there? Obviously, Garcia can't be your future. Is Trevor Penning going to be an answer? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe he can play guard this year. You can't count on James Hurst being in the future. He's already old. You just can't count on him being out there. Like, you have to stir up this left side of the offensive line. That's your blind side of your quarterback, and the left side is just piss poor, pathetic. You have to have a tackle. You have to have a guard over there, and we have neither, in my opinion, right now. We don't have a left side of the offensive line. We barely have a right side. Like, I'm already not even confident in Ramczyk's, health-wise, and Ruiz, I'm not super confident in. I think he took a step back this year. So, obviously, we're going to have to stir up this offensive line. If we take an offensive lineman in the first round, everybody just shut up and be happy.
I will not be happy. Like I said, I agree. We do have to fix the offensive line. I agree. The offensive line is a huge problem. No doubt. What I'm saying is we don't need to get it from pick 14. That's my whole thing. We can get it from free agency. We can get it from somewhere else. Later in the draft, I don't care. Not at 14. We can get more impactful players there.
If he turns out to be great, great. If he ends up being bad, it was the right choice anyway because we need offensive line help. Offensive line and defensive line help we need. You have to build through the trenches. You have to build through the trenches. All of these teams that are really, really good in the NFL, just look at the Super Bowl. Look at the Super Bowl matchups. Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. They built.
Great example. Great example. Look at the two teams. We just did this exercise. We don't know anything about their offensive lines. PFF grades don't have them very high. Would you rather have Deebo Samuel or any of the guards? Would you rather have Christian McCaffrey or either center? Would you rather have Brock Purdy or one of the guards? Would you rather have Bosa? Would you rather have Chris Jones? Look at those two teams. Those two teams are exact examples. And I can already tell what you're going to say. The response to that is usually, well, the rest of the roster is so good that, an average offensive line is fine. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my point. That is my point. You feel the roster would impact players at other positions? Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. You can get by with an average line. If you do the opposite, if you have the best 5 linemen in the NFL and you've got a bad roster around those linemen, you think you're going to make the playoffs? Nope. You think you're going to win a Super Bowl? Nope. Sure don't. So this Super Bowl is a fantastic example. So I would take his advice. I would go look at the rosters of the Super Bowl team. Look at where PFF had them graded. Individual offensive linemen and all that. Look at all that. And then I think you have your answer. Of build the rest of the roster. Find average line play. Like, what's the difference between the 4th best offensive line in the NFL and the 12th best? Probably not very much. The difference in the 4th best wide receiver and the 12th best wide receiver? A lot. The difference in the 4th best quarterback and the 12th best? At leaps and bounds. The 12th best is probably just a rotational journeyman, and the best is probably the MVP of the league.
True, they got rid of Tyreek, but they shore up their offensive line. Defensive line with Chris Jones and those guys, really, really good. Look at the 49ers. Offensive line, really, really good. Defensive line, really, really good. You have to have the trenches to be a successful team in the NFL. You just have.
Defensive line is more important than offensive line. I will say that for sure. And that's why I'm talking about pass rush and all that. In today's NFL, it's way more important. If you told me I could have the number 1 offensive line in the NFL or the 8th best defensive line, I'm taking the 8th best defensive line. Way more important than the offensive line.
Have to. If you don't have good trenches, don't have a good front 5 on the offensive line, you don't have a good front 7 on the defense, you're just not going to be a successful team. Look at the Eagles, look at the Lions, look at any team that went far this year. Their trenches were good. You look at the Saints, trenches were piss poor.
Everything else was piss poor though,
trenches
too.
were piss poor. Offensive line, defensive line, piss poor for the Saints this year.
Everything else
you
was
have
bad.
to do better. You have to do better. You have to just keep shooting in the draft, maybe change your philosophy up, obviously, if it's not working, or you keep doing the same thing and keep missing, then everybody's going to get fired, and that's it. It's going to make everybody happy anyway. But you have to shore up this offensive line. I don't care if it's free agency. I don't care if it's the draft, but you have to get younger. So it needs to be the draft. Even though Mickey Loomis said we're not old, even though we're the oldest team in the league, I just don't know how that works. Just don't know how that works. But offensive line, man, we get any one of these guys, I wouldn't be mad. Tight end. Now I've seen some Brock Bowers.
Baby. Now, here we are. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh. Tell you this. The more I look around, the more I talk to my high-level sources, the more I'm thinking Brock Bowers might slip. My God, if we get Brock Bowers, oh, baby. If we get a guy who can be the next Sam Laporta, the next Mark Andrews, the next Travis Kelce, the next Gronk, I can't think of anything that would help Derek Carr out more than if we had Brock Bowers. And if Brock Bowers played at that level. Obviously, if he just flamed out, that wouldn't be awesome. But if we had someone If we had another wrinkle, if we had Olave, Kamara, Shaheed, and then we also had a Sam Laporta, a Mark Andrews, a Travis Kelce, a Rob Gronkowski, my God, a George Kittle, I would love if Brock Bowers fell. Or even if we traded up to get him. Even if he was at like 10, we traded up from 14 to 10 to get him. I am all for this. I love this. If I had to make a wish list, it would probably be Jared Verse, number 1. Actually, I might rather have Bowers, honestly. It would be Verse and Bowers. Those would be the two. Verse and Bowers are the two guys that I'm hoping we get one of those two. This guy, total stud.
Already slated to the Saints in the first round. And I love Brock Bowers. Since he was a freshman, I was like, hey, he's the one. But if we take a tight end in the first round, just fire everyone. We have so many problems on this team. Only way it's acceptable to take a tight end first round is if, I don't know, somehow they just traded us Pat Mahomes and we shared up this offensive line and free agency, this defensive line, and somehow we're just looking great.
I don't think so. If every team in the NFL knew how good Sam Laporta was or was going to be, where do you think he would have got drafted? If I told you how good Travis Kelce was going to be, where do you think he would have got drafted? If I told you how good Mark Andrews, George Kittle, where do you think they would have got drafted? Do you think they would have fell out of the top 10? Do you think they would have fell out of the top 5? No, they would not have. It is a different NFL, ladies and gentlemen. The tight end is basically a wide receiver. The tight end enables so much in today's NFL, in today's offense. It's just another wide receiver. It's another weapon. If Brock Bowers was Marvin Harrison Jr., no one would blink at taking him, right? Obviously, he's not Marvin Harrison Jr., but it's the same idea where it's like you take a super impactful offensive player. We need depth offensively. We don't have depth offensively, and we certainly don't have young offensive players, like a young core. Chris Olave is all we got. Kamara's aging. The tight ends are basically like a retirement home flag football team. Just washed up retreads. Injury riddled, whatever. Taysom Hill's 33. All right, Michael Thomas is on the way out. Sounds like a really good time to go get a young weapon, especially if you think this guy can be a Pro Bowl level, top 3-ish tight end in the NFL, which I certainly think he can. Because then, think about this. Let's say Derek Carr plays this season. Let's say he plays another season for us. And then let's say we got to find the next quarterback. It'd be pretty nice for a young quarterback to come in with Chris Olave probably at his peak and Brock Bowers a couple of years in the NFL. This is a play for the now. This is a play for the future. I want to stress this. I would rather Brock Bowers than any offensive lineman in this draft. Joe Alt, Hass, if it's him and Bowers. This is what I'm talking about. This is the impact. This is the guy who's going to come in and make an identity-changing impact. Joe Alt is not going to do that. And Joe Alt's not even, there's no chance we get Joe Alt. But I'm just saying, the top offensive lineman. If we take Bowers, that'll be just more evidence of the shift that's happening philosophically with the Saints. Because up until Brock Bowers, we would just be taking supplemental players, projects, players from Northern Iowa who we think we can develop into something someday. We'd be reaching on players. Oh, this player had an injury history. We're getting value on him, whatever. This would be a complete 180 from that. This would be, we're taking an absolute superstar at the position from a big-time college. He was big-time in college. He's a physical freak. This is what we want. I'm telling you. This is the philosophy we want the Saints to have.
Other than that, I love Brock Bowers, but you just can't take a tight end in the first round. I love him. Love, bro. I think he's going to be a top 10 tight end first day in the NFL. I want to say something crazy like top 5. He really might. He's that good.
Then why wouldn't you take him? If you think he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver, let's just make it easy. Let's say you think he's going to be George Kittle. If you can get the next George Kittle, and George Kittle isn't even that good. Like, saying Travis Kelce might be the best tight end of all time. Okay? So, Kittle is good, but Kittle isn't that level. So I'm even giving you some leeway. If you knew you could draft the next George Kittle, or if you thought you were drafting the next George Kittle, why would you take a lineman? It makes no sense. How good would that lineman have to be? I mean, think about it. How good would an offensive lineman have to be to equal the impact of a George Kittle? Your answer is probably, he'd probably have to be pretty close to the best lineman in the NFL. Which is exactly the point I was making. You got 3 options with a lineman. Why risk it? Why risk it? Why risk the miss? Just go get an average lineman. You can replicate that somewhere. You can't replicate George Kittle somewhere. You can't replicate Mark Andrews somewhere. You can't replicate Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, Rob Gronkowski. Can't do it. I just don't understand the no tight end for a lineman.
He's that good. The same impact Laporta had, he's gonna have on whatever team he goes to this year. He's that good. He's a really, really good prospect. But it's
we got to look at this. All right, Sam Laporta was taken 34th. Okay, what even a first rounder? The first Paris Johnson Jr. was the first offensive lineman off the board. Who would you rather have, Paris Johnson Jr. or Sam Laporta? What about Devin Witherspoon? Devin Witherspoon was a Pro Bowler. Would you rather have Devin Witherspoon, or would you rather have Sam Laporta? Will Anderson, really, really good. Really good this year. Really good. Pro Bowler. Texans were really good. Could it be Defensive Rookie of the Year? Let's look at some more offensive linemen. Darnell Wright, Peter Skronsky, Broderick Jones. Who else? Anton Harrison. Who would you rather have? You can pick out of all the offensive linemen: Paris Johnson, Darnell Wright, Peter Skronsky, Broderick Jones, Anton Harrison, or you can have Sam Laporta. I have a sneaky feeling every single person would take Sam Laporta. So and that just goes to show. It goes to show the volatility of the offensive line. Let me ask you this. It's another question. How good was, let's see. How good was Jordan Addison this year? Everyone probably has an opinion. Everyone probably has an opinion of like, Addison did this, he did that, he did this, whatever. He was the, 5th wide receiver taken? 4th wide receiver taken? Yeah, it's 4th wide receiver taken. How good was Broderick Jones this year? How good was Peter Skronsky this year? I would assume no one knows. I would assume it's just like, I have no clue. Couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you at all. No idea. I know how good Sam Laporta was. Hell, I know how good Michael Mayer was. I'm not really totally sure how Anton Harrison did. Now that you mention it. Man, now that you mention it, I'm not totally sure how good Paris Johnson Jr. was. Not sure. And that's because they can get lost. In order for an offensive lineman to stand out, they have to be so outrageously good. So this shows you right now. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, is that it? 5 offensive linemen went before Sam Laporta. So if you got a shot at the first 5 offensive linemen, you still might not land. It's just too risky. Way too risky. Way too risky. I mean, cornerback, same thing. Like cornerback, I mean, now that I'm looking at this list, like that's the other position I say you can just kind of roll people in. Emmanuel Forbes, Christian Gonzalez, Deontay Banks, Joey Porter Jr. Would you rather Sam Laporta or those guys? I'd rather Laporta. It is an old way of thinking. It's an old way of thinking. The high pick for offensive lineman. Got to shift away from it.
There's no point of taking a tight end first round. I won't even cover the rest of these guys, and there's no slight to them. It's just the Saints take a tight end first round. You'll see a rant. Receiver. Now I love this receiving class, and
I'll let him go.
we're probably gonna lose Mike Thomas, and I think it's a really, really good receiving class, one of the best in a long time. But like I said, who cares if you got good receivers, which I think we do, if you can't protect and can't get the ball downfield. Marvin Harrison Jr., think he's really, really good. Malik Neighbors, really, really good. Romeo Dunze, really, really good. Keon Comey, really, really good. Troy Franklin, really, really good. Brian Thomas Jr., really, really good. All of these guys are really good. I just don't think we could take one in the first round.
I respect that because I thought he was going to say we should take a receiver. I respect that he held on to, he wants to build from the offensive line, defensive line, whatever. But again, think about the Bengals. They couldn't protect Burrow. Could not protect him. He was getting hit all over the place. At times, still, they have trouble protecting him. But they believe they can piecemeal an offensive line together throughout the season to protect him enough to where the weapons will be worth it. And it has worked. That has absolutely worked for the Bengals. I like Keon Coleman a lot. He'd probably be my pick out of this group. I think he'd be really good as the next Michael Thomas. He's kind of that big physical wide receiver. He fits the role that complements a Chris Olave. I would like Coleman. Interesting note on Ladd McConkey. So I've heard out of the Senior Bowl that Ladd McConkey is absolutely dominating. Like cannot stop getting separation. Cannot stop just piecing people up. But I don't know if a 5'11", 180-pound wide receiver will work. I mean, Puka Nacua is 6'2". Like Puka Nacua seems like a small guy. He's towering over Ladd McConkey. I'm not sure if a 5'11", 185, 4'6" wide receiver works, but I have heard that he is nuts at the Senior Bowl right now. Word on the street. So just keep that in mind. But out of this group, I wouldn't be mad at Keon Coleman. He would be much lower for me than Bowers or Verse or any of those guys. But I do like the idea of us getting Keon Coleman.
I would love a receiver. If we didn't miss on Trevor Penning, we didn't miss on some of these defensive line additions like Davenport and Peyton Turner, didn't miss on some of these guards, that we got, we could probably take a receiver this year. But we've missed on the trenches too much that we just keep having to shoot. We keep having to shoot at the trenches.
But doesn't that kind of answer your own question? Like if you keep missing on the trenches, maybe we should quit drafting the trenches and go get known commodities from free agency. Instead of trying to project these picks that we obviously cannot do, go get the guys who they can play. You've watched them play in the NFL. You know what to expect. I mean, it's kind of answering the own question. It's like, why would you keep wasting picks? I mean, that's kind of like insanity. You keep just wasting picks on the offensive line. Like, imagine if we would have taken good players or impactful players instead of the Pennings and all those picks. How much better would we be? Then you can just fill the offensive line somewhere else. I mean, the offensive line thing, I just don't understand. I don't understand. I understand the need for the offensive line, but I don't understand the obsession with like we have to take an offensive lineman in this draft. We have to totally forget every other position, every other need, everything else. We just had to build from the. I I don't get that one.
So no, we can't have fun. We can't get a receiver.
I mean, go back to the draft we just saw. All 6 of those offensive linemen that went before Sam Laporta. Would you rather have any of those 6 or Puka Nacua? Puka Nacua went like the 7th round. You'd rather have Puka Nacua. You'd rather have Kyron Williams. Would you rather have Puka Nacua or Will Anderson? Will Anderson's a Pro Bowler. Will Anderson could be Defensive Rookie of the Year. I'd rather have Puka Nacua. I'm telling y'all, look, you have to put points on the board. You have to be individually impactful. You can't just be good or average at a position and expect that to translate to a good team. You have to you got to kind of think differently in today's NFL. When you look at the good teams, they're all doing it. You can't get stuck in an old line of thinking when all around you, the NFL, the successful teams in the NFL are changing and they're going that way to where they are loading up on talent at individual talent at positions that can be individually impactful. And it's working out for them. It's working out for them so much that it can mask bad offensive line play. It can mask no-name defensive lines. We have to. The Rams are a good example of the right philosophy. You try and find the impact players, running back, wide receiver, quarterback. You can figure out the rest.
Can't do anything like that because we have to shore up our trenches. And you can call it a bad thing or a good thing, but we just have to do that. Because I would love to have any one of these guys in the top 6 right here. If we could just, Keon Coleman, I'm not super in love with. I think he's really good. But any one of these other guys that we closed our eyes, picked the name out of the hat, we took them first round, I would not be mad at any year. But this year, just don't think we could do it. We'll love it. Because Malik Neighbors, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, or Malik.
We can have our cake and eat it too, where we can shore up the offensive line and draft one of these guys. That is possible.
Brian Thomas, Rashid Shaheed, and Chris Olave, it's a crazy young trio. Best trio in the league at young receivers. But hey, we ain't got time to throw them the ball. And what's the issue? Then for what? Running backs. Now, obviously, gonna have a new scheme here. And you got some really, really good running backs. Jonathan Brooks, Trey Branson, Blake Corum.
Running backs are similar, I think, to the plug in whoever and let them play, just kind of fit. It's easier now to find a running back late. You don't have to get someone early. Like the difference of Kyron Williams and Bijan Robinson on the field, not too much. The difference in the draft, about six rounds. So I wouldn't be drafting any running backs high. I do like Blake Corum a lot, so I wouldn't mind having a Blake Corum. He hell of a running back. So if you could get a Blake Corum late, I'd be cool with that.
I think all those guys are good running backs, but we take a running back first round. I'll go find him myself. That's kind of like
this would be way worse than a tight end. So much worse.
The tight end position. What are we doing? Why would we take a running back? You got Alvin Kamara. You got Kendrick Miller. You got Jamal Williams. You got 3 backs.
Yeah, but 2 of the 3 are just whatever. If you can replicate the Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara dynamic of a couple years ago, let's do it. I would not mind at all taking Corum, in the 3rd round or wherever he ends up falling.
Running back room, we probably won't bring in anybody. We'll bring in some undrafted guys and things like that just because preseason, things like that. But the running back room is probably not changing next year. Not even probably. The running back room is just not changing next year. It's just not changing. You have the guys. Those guys need to be healthy. You got a new scheme. Hopefully new running concepts. Those guys, I have faith that they'll perform next year. So running back, that's just out of the question. And running back first round is just out of the question, just basically anyway. Especially for a team that's bad, in my opinion. Yeah. You don't have I don't think you have a franchise changing. There's no CMC in the draft. There's no Saquon Barkley in the draft. It's not a guy like that.
Barkley's a good example too, where Barkley's he was good. Barkley was good. Barkley was really good. But if you could go back, would he go 4th overall or whatever he did? Probably not. You know, the game just changed. The game changed really quickly at the running back position, and drafting a running back in the first round is almost always wrong.
Where I'm like, you have to get this guy first round, like Jahmyr Gibbs. I just don't think it's that in this draft. So taking a running back first round just would be idiotic. And last but not least, the most interesting thing you can do in the draft is the quarterbacks. Now, it's only 2 guys I'm sold on right now. 2 guys I'm sold on in the first round, in my opinion. Haven't really dove into these quarterbacks because I don't think the Saints would do it. But you got Caleb Williams. Take him in a heartbeat. I know he's catching a lot of flack and this and that. He shouldn't be the number 1 pick, all of this. Hey, if the Saints were to take him, you would hear no complaints from me.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback, Drake May and Caleb Williams, I think those 2 are absolute, like, legit generational prospects. Just legit, like, game-changing, franchise-changing, Joe Burrow, Andrew Luck, like that whole kind of thing where you take them, boom, immediately you're on the track. Immediately you're moving forward. I don't think the Saints should take a quarterback. I just don't. I wouldn't be mad if we took Michael Pratt super late, if we took, Bo Nix, if he slipped and we took him super late. But I just don't think we need one. I think we're fine with Carr. I don't think we need to half develop a young quarterback, half try and win with Carr. Like, we are in the world where we need to just win with Carr or do what we can do with Carr, fill the rest of the roster up, and then when it's time to move on from Carr, move on from him. Or if we shore up the rest of the positions enough to where we can take a quarterback, fine, whatever. But I just think it'd be such a waste if we took JJ McCarthy at 14. For what? Like why? So I know quarterback is the most exciting thing you can do. I know quarterback, a lot of people want us to take a quarterback because they want, I think, to see wholesale change and all that, but it just does not fit what we're doing right now. I don't think it makes any sense. I am totally cool with taking one late. Like I said, if Michael Pratt gets taken and we're developing Pratt as like a young backup and he gets to sit behind Carr and learn from Carr, cool. But we have needs in other positions that can be addressed early in this draft. So I think we should draft those positions. I think we should draft those and solidify those positions. And then with an eye to the future, understand that in a season, 2 seasons, we will have to move on from Carr. But, something that we do have to do, we just don't need to do it in this draft.
You hear no
or not early in this draft.
Complaints from me, and also Jaden Daniels. I mean, come on, Heisman Trophy winner, looked great at LSU this past season. Came back, kind of had a Joe Burrow-esque senior year. Came back, could have been a draft pick, maybe 4th, 5th, 6th round if he came out his junior season. Came back that last year, won the Heisman, earned himself a 1st round draft pick, probably top 10, top 5. If we took him, you're gonna hear no complaints from me once again.
I think Daniels is good. I think Daniels is probably better than people think he is. Again, like these guys are going to go like top 5, So for us to go from 14 to top 5 to take a quarterback to then let them sit behind Carr, that's not going to happen. So if you're looking at a quarterback, you're looking at Bo Nix, you're looking at Michael Penix, you're looking at even McCarthy is supposed to go in the 1st round. So it's Penix and Nix. Those are the 2 where it's like we could really have a shot at taking one of those 2 guys. Do you want to? Do I want to? No.
Again, no complaints at all. Do I think we'll do it? Probably not. You got Drake May. I haven't watched a lot of them. People say it's come Josh Allen-ish. I don't know. Sweet. I haven't watched a lot of Drake May.
He's sweet.
Penix, I think he's good. I think he's okay.
Awesome.
I wouldn't draft him in the 1st round. Bo Nix, it's no chance. It's no chance I would jump. And him, JJ McCarthy, no chance. Spencer Rattler, no chance. Michael Pratt, all these guys are not even 1st round picks after those couple. But if we took a quarterback, I would not be mad. Obviously, we're stuck with, I'm not going to say stuck. I'm going to be nice to Derek Carr. We're not stuck with Derek Carr, but we're stuck with Derek Carr next year. No matter what, Derek Carr's the quarterback next season.
Agreed.
The way the money, the way the cap works, Derek Carr is going to be the quarterback next season. That's just how it is. Good, bad, indifferent. He's going to be the quarterback next season. Now, either do you trust him? Do you not trust him? Do you think we could bring a quarterback in? But would you bring a quarterback in, under Dennis Allen if you don't think he's going to be the coach after the season? That's going to be the thing. Why would you bring in a quarterback under this staff, under this coaching, regime, if you're going to change it the next year? Yeah. If they're going to get fired, it's no point. And also, this team, whether we like it or not, it's built to win now. Is it really? No. But the way the cap set up, with his money set up, with all these older guys on the team, with DeMario, with Cam Jordan, with Derek Carr's contract, with all these guys and where these contracts are set up, Tyrann Mathieu, you have to win now.
The win now is a misleading-ish way to say it, because it makes people think like we're in a Super Bowl kind of atmosphere. The window is short, is how I would phrase it. The window for this core is relatively small, because we do have aging players like DeMario and Tyrann, and y'all know the guys. So the window of winning, and what is that, winning a division? Is that winning an NFC title? Is that winning whatever? Who knows? But we have a window with this core group that's relatively small. So, and the coach can be included. Dennis Allen can be included in there. This is not, you don't want to draft a quarterback and have them be developed in this situation. You may say, we just got Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak, his job is to get the most out of Derek Carr in this current offense. His job is not to develop a quarterback. If this offense fails and some pieces fall off, and we're, then it could be like, okay, now it's time to get somebody and develop that quarterback. But it's just not the case this year. And it doesn't even fit. That's another part of it too. If we had the 3rd overall pick, then yeah, you probably rush everything. You probably rush the window or forego the window and take Drake May or Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams or whoever you want. But we're at 14. So we're not getting Williams, May, Daniels. We're not getting those guys. So then you got to say, well, do I want to take J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix or Bo Nix at 14? No, you don't. Okay, and that's it. That's the whole thing. That's the whole conversation. So then what's that lead you to? Michael Pratt in the whatever round? Okay, I'm cool with that. We didn't give up a ton of capital. Doesn't really mean a whole lot to the interim. Not a wasted pick. Can sit behind Carr. Cool. That works. That fits. But it doesn't fit to take Williams, May, Daniels, Penix, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy. So it's one of those things where it just doesn't line up. It's got to line up. And for us, it just does not.
Like, it's set up to win now. Are we in position to win now? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So taking a quarterback first round would just be kind of almost telling on yourself that, hey, we're not ready to win now. This season's going to be just kind of, hey, if we can do it, we can do it, make the playoffs. But if not. I think obviously the Saints' goals have changed. I think when Sean Payton was there, we was doing everything we can do to win. Win. Now it's kind of like, we want to win, but if we don't, it just is what it is. I think that's kind of the role we're on right now. And the sad thing is the team's too good to be 3-win team, 2-win team, 4-win team. We're always going to win between 7 and 9 games. The team's it's just a good team.
Well, I think the front office agrees. I think the front office agrees like this isn't good enough, and that's why we're seeing wholesale changes. We saw 6 offensive assistants get fired, coordinators or assistants. I think the front office agrees. Like, hey, we got to be better than this. We have to win. We have to change some things up. So I think we are kind of seeing that philosophy trickle down from the front office all the way to the coaches and what we're doing with the team.
Now we just need something to get us over the edge. Drafting a quarterback obviously won't get you over the edge because they won't get to play. They'll get to sit a year, which is, I think, the best case scenario for rookie quarterbacks as to why the Packers have only had 3 quarterbacks in the last 50 years, seems like. With Brett Favre, you got Aaron Rodgers sit behind him. Then you got Jordan Love, who sat behind Aaron Rodgers, who looks really, really good in his first full season playing. Now, if you get a guy like Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Penix, whoever you want to draft, and they sat behind Derek Carr for a year or two, it may be the best thing for that quarterback when it's all said and done and it's time for him to play. Will the Saints do it? Absolutely not. If we did it, if we took Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, once again, you'll hear no complaints from me. We'll probably have to move up in the draft to get those guys. End up giving another first-round pick. That'll be a problem. We're not in position to be giving up first-round picks. That's the unfortunate part because we've missed on so many first-round picks. So we just can't really give up first-round picks anymore. And you might be bad. So you should not be giving up your first-round pick next year because this shit could go to shits. You have a young offensive coordinator who I think is going to be really, really good. But what if he's not? What if he's not? What if he's trash? What if we win 4 games and you gave up your first-round pick? Then you end up like the Panthers where they got to fire everybody because you gave up 2 first-round picks to get Bryce Young. And now you're picking again number 1 and you don't have that pick. You don't want to run into that situation. So it's going to be very, very interesting for the Saints what we do in the draft Positions, I think we should take, like I said, we need to take offensive line, defensive line, edge. Like those are.
I would rank them edge, tight end, receiver, edge, tight end, receiver, defensive line. Probably be how I'd rank the top.
There are 3 positions. The trenches we have to get. Quarterback's probably next on that list. Then the wide receivers probably next. Cornerback. I think the end positions obviously is linebacker, then running back, and tight end. We just don't need to.
I would say the last for me, like the running back's the least. We don't need a running back. I would put offensive line down there. I'd put defensive back down there. I'd put linebacker down there. I'd put quarterback down there. So to me, it's obvious. I think it's an obvious. You find whoever is the combination of best available / most impact at wide receiver, tight end, edge, defensive line is where I'd go.
Those positions, but any of those other trenches. Hey, now y'all can drop some names in the comments. Who y'all want me to watch, man? I'll try to find some game film on some of these guys, watch some of these guys, see what it looks like. I've already watched some highlights on a couple, but highlights don't really give it justice. You kind of watch. Everybody's going to look good in highlights. If you're a first-round talent, you're going to look good on a highlight film. So we'll have to see how these guys look. But I'm very, very excited to dive into this. Super, super excited to dive into this draft stuff. And we'll get to some late guys, some sleepers, some guys. I think that'll be good.
Yeah, long video, good stuff. Liked it, enjoyed it. Thank y'all for the recommendation. Go to his comment, or go and comment on this video. What position should the Saints target in the draft? And put a name down there and let him do a little film review. I'll be checking in to see what film review he does. I'll be very, very interested in that. Thank you very much for watching. Also, go down in my comments and let me know what you think. We covered a lot there. Who would you draft? What position? And whatnot. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.